Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to present my paper entitled Imagining the Lawan Movement, Youth Identity, Digital Media and Political Forces. Background of the study of this paper, the study examined how Malaysian youth interpret resistance and attempt to voice protest uh, against the government through mass action as the Indian community in the Lawan movement during the COVID-19 pandemic. The protest movement based on emerging community collective consciousness to achieve a common political goal. This emerging community usually doesn't know each other but have a collective consciousness, a political force. Of course, today digital media reinforce it as well. The study discussed the youth protest movement in the Lawan movement as an emerging community and the digital media as an accelerator of the movement in Malaysia. The protest that developed in early 2021 by Malaysian youth in July 2021 were triggered by political instability as well as acceleration of the escalation of the COVID-19 the pandemic. The rebellion of the Lawan movement began with disappointment and anger against the Kerajaan Perikatan Nasional, which is the government of Malaysia. The Perikatan Nasional is considered is the source of death and suffering for the Malaysian people when the COVID-19 pandemic worsened again at the beginning of 2021. So the study, I decided to. There is two research question in the study. First, to what extent in the Lawan movement interpreted by the youth participating in protest as an emerging community. Second research question is what is the role of digital media as an accelerator of the Lawan movement. This study, on the other hand, this study contributes to looking at the activity of the protest movement in an empirical approach among youth. This thesis has been supported by the argument of Ghozian 2021, Aulia 2022, Pradhana and Aulia 2021 and Aitken 2021, but they try to explore methodological different cases. The study needs to examine how youth can be bound together in protest action despite their different background instead of exploring only limited online protest activity. According to the study by Halim et al. 2020 has shown that social media, the equality of information and the political knowledge of Malaysian youth are important assets to rising identity and political awareness. In this essay, Halim et al. Tried to explore the argument of Muhammad et al., which reveal how Malaysian youth acquire political knowledge. Another study by Ismail et al. 2019 revealed that youth prefer to consume information on digital media when in a critical condition. Youth is considered to have a close relationship with device as well as the digital media ecosystem. Trust is built on the accuracy of news and information in digital media, especially on social media. To the argument of the previous study above, the study takes a position to see the active involvement of Malaysian youth in protest movement with political goal concretely. The study also limits knowledge related to the digital media and issue that drive the main domain of the study, namely offline protest. At a certain level, this study also used a less popular framework used by previous study to the idea of imagined community. In the method part, this paper used a phenomenological approach. This study using the constructivist paradigm to explore the meaning and the experiences of informant. The informant was chosen as a unique perspective and experience regarding the context of the protest movement and its relationship to use of digital media in the Lawan movement. However, there are many research methodology that can be applied related to this issue of the protest movement and hashtag activism, has been done by Kim et al. 2020 and Pradhana and Tanya 2021. Case study hashtag activism and connective action by Wang and Zhu 2021. Youth-led social identity and movement case study in Hong Kong by May 2021. And also youth protest activity by Kerimov 2021, such as a social network analysis of Instagram during the COVID pandemic and a cross-national analysis. So the study emphasized the method of observation and in-depth interview by concept from Norman Ghozian 2017 to collect research data. By determining the research design at the outset as a phenomenological study, I uses the method to capture the meaning and engage in interpretive work in the data analysis process. There were six informants involved in the interview in this study. These six informants were selected through a non-probability sampling technique, considering the ease of obtaining not randomly selected informant. There are two kinds of non-probability sampling that the researchers did. First is purposive sampling. Based on the observation, researchers have considered and selected informant with certain characteristics, such as protest participants who are members of the Lawan Malaysia Telegram group. And second, snowball sampling informant was selected sequentially from information obtained from previous informant. Considering that these are sensitive issues and the phenomenon of leaderless action demands the confidentiality of the identity of the participant in this action. All informant identity in this study have been anonymized. The researcher carried out the thematic analysis by Brown and Clark 2006. Procedure after collecting the data and transcribing the overall result of the six informant interview, although there are many analytical methods such as descriptive analysis and narrative analysis. They are not enough to explore the phenomenon and gain an in-depth understanding of the emerging community in the Lawan movement. So, That's why the researcher or I intend the thematic selection of the analysis to explore and interpret the pattern meaning across the interview dataset. Thematic analysis is useful for capturing what dominant themes emerge and tend to be emphasized by informant during in-depth interview. This theme emerges with inductive logic as the result and research findings are critically analyzed. In the result and discussion section, I have four themes that emerge after I analyze and transcribing all the interview datasets. And the first theme is awakening the collective consciousness of youth in political project. The researchers discussed the finding, then its finding was incorporated into strong theme that emerged during the coding and the data analysis process. Each interview process produced four themes before I jump into the first theme. Four theme and emerge and dominate. This theme related to the objective and research question in the study. First theme, the theme is related to the rise of youth collective consciousness in political project. This aligns with the research question, namely the extent to which youth interpret the Lawan movement as an emerging community. The discussion will highlight the process of collective consciousness among youths. And the second, the researcher discussed young people, political power and identity, still related to the first research question. This issue will certainly be explored more deeply. Second, the research question is, what is the role of the digital media as an accelerator of the Lawan Malaysia movement? This arises the remaining two tapes. Discussion of the Lawan movement as an emerging community and the role of the digital media in achieving the first theme is awakening the collective consciousness of youth in political project. The national consciousness process comes to project or media assistance. Suppose Anderson by March 1986 described the idea of the printing capitalism as a tool of nationalism. In that case, the collective consciousness of the protest participant of the Lawan movement is shaped by digital media. This will be discussed in the next discussion, next theme. In this theme, the researcher captured the essence of the information of nationalist consciousness in Anderson language. This national consciousness began with the disseminating of information by young Malaysians who later formed the group, or the Secretariat Solidarity Rakyat. The COVID-19 crisis triggered the culmination of this movement into a protest taking to the street in Kuala Lumpur. This was explained by Informant 3. At the time, we received information through all the Telegram channel and the action guide on the website, Lawan Malaysia. We feel the main state of the Kuala Lumpur, even though we are still in a bad state from the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still implementing health protocol in action. Be careful and don't lose sight of this political project. This means What the informant argue is the existence of the political project makes Malaysian youth understand the importance of unity and nationalism in other contexts. The collective consciousness formed through political projects such as the Lawan movement is strongly motivated by your youth anger and dissatisfaction with the way people of the generation above them run the government. The political turmoil has taken advantage of the worsening situation due to COVID-19. And the second theme is Malaysian youth and political forces. Political power become important and political identity is also a priority that a movement must own. These elements are present in the Lawan Malaysia movement as a prerequisite for a new political movement. The Lawan movement, which unites all young Malaysians in a political force. But unlike Anderson's dystopia by Bergels 2018, it ends with imperialism differently. This analogy is often found in political parties which unite different individuals to gain greater power and profit outside of the group. In this youth movement, aim to reform and demand improvement to the government policy system. Although the meaning of gaining power and profit is highly debated. The whole process and fundamental determination of how individuals become a group which consider itself a community will fight against the imagined community they formulated by March 1989. The process by which each individual tries to become a unified, solid group in the context of the movement is extraordinary. The meaning of being a protest group will always be connected and strengthened by political power. Malaysian youth see political power in a movement group as the main capital to carry out their action. Action with political goals should indeed have clear fundamental routes to achieve them. And the third theme, the Lawan movement as an emerging community. I discussed in the thought of Benedict Anderson's the nation always starts as a state, not the other way around. Likewise with the Lawan Malaysia movement. This movement began with the nationalist consciousness that is embedded in young Malaysians. They feel the union of one individual with another is influenced by a shared feeling of wanting to fix a chaotic situation. This sense of togetherness can only be manifest in resistance in the form of taking to the street. The Lawan Malaysia protest movement confirmed the group as an emerging community with this attribute. The group imagined using unifying language, logos, or symbols, flags, and attributes such as ideology as an emerging community of various individuals. And an emerging community exists in the mind that is manifest and realized in intangible manifestation through the unique presence of these attributes. The new political movement Lawan Malaysia distinctiveness and characteristics such as ideology, flag, and language shape nationalist consciousness. And the last one of theme is the use of digital media to attain your political goals. At the beginning of this discussion, the researchers touch on the relationship between the media, and national consciousness. Again, according to Anderson, national consciousness is influenced by information dissemination, such as print media. Likewise, with the Lawan Malaysian movement, you choose digital media as an accelerator of protest action to build bond between individuals. This is confirmed by the recognition of a member of the Secretariat Solidarity Rakyat as a creator of digital media channel such as the website and Telegram channel Lawan Movement. According to him, initially we thought we would launch an action through the hashtag activism movement. It is useful to build awareness of every young person in Malaysia. After all, Twitter is the main medium for young people who are quite critical of social issues. However, to maintain privacy, we choose the Telegram channel. The protest movement toward real action, taking to the street instead of just using a hashtag in cyberspace. According to him, I argue media such as Telegram, Twitter, and information assistant on the website can build closeness and awareness of Malaysian youth. We collected all the information about they collected all the information about the political crisis, demands, and the failure to handle the pandemic through the media earlier. Even so, they did not leave Twitter at all. Twitter has always been a reliable source of information for the Lawan protest movement. As a common perception was present from Twitter image narrative and mass opinion polls. What was conveyed by the informant was purely their understanding of the importance of using digital media, especially in Malaysia. They agree that digital media is the best way to disseminate information in the time of crisis. The Lawan movement relies on 2 or 3 types of digital media platform: website, Telegram, channel, and Twitter. The 3 have different functions, but it is clear that the use of digital media is to achieve the political goals of movement. Another function of digital media in the concept of emerging community is to foster national consciousness. This collective consciousness can see the context of the Lawan movement and its political goals. The conclusion and recommendation, Benedict Anderson's approach is not new to social science studies. However, using it to see reality in the information age should be considered further. Social media has its place in the discourse of communication studies. One of them is his role in the contemporary protest movement to support traditional protest action. When studies related to this are discussed in network analysis, hashtag activism, and other movement studies, taking the perspective of protest action group is another way of understanding reality. The crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic that has disrupted all aspects of life worldwide since 2020 has also been felt in Malaysia. At its peak, the failure to handle the pandemic by the Kingdom of Malaysia, which the Prime Minister led at the time, was exacerbated by the uncertain political situation and the tendency to take advantage of the depressed condition of society. This then Malaysians to carry out protests that were dominated by youth. This protest action created unity among Malaysian youth. The Secretariat Solidarity Rakyat joined the Lawan Malaysia movement, forming a new political community for these individuals. This community is imagined through the identity, language, ideology, and flag attributes. They unite to achieve political goals by demanding reform and escaping Malaysia's crisis. In Anderson's understanding, this political community will later carry out a rebellion after breaking away from its parents' group as a Malaysian citizen. New political groups also have potential and limitation in achieving political goals through revolution. In the past, the revolution was driven by printing media. In the information age, digital media play a similar role. The role of digital media in terms of speed and information dissemination is very strong. In forming emerging communities such as the Lawan movement, and then the political power of youth is to take advantage of every opportunity in the ecosystem they profess. Digital media become a weapon and acts as an accelerator of protest. Instead of relying on hashtag activism, the Lawan movement tries to take advantage of the feeling of nationalism formed in youth groups. Although Malaysian youth have the diverse background consisting of the different ethnicities and religions, the Lawan movement is an emerging community that is able to fuse all these aspects into one. Digital media helps shape how people imagine themselves being with each other as a community. For recommendation, the researcher recommend a method approach or Benedict Anderson perspective outside of this research. This approach can address several issues or phenomena. Media organization can be seen through the perspective of agents or actors within the organization itself. How do they imagine themselves related to individuals in the organization? How are they related to each other in the continuity of the organization? Are there attributes such as the feeling of nationalism, identity, language, or ideology that each media organization has firmly entrenched in each actor? Or other issues can also be applied when communication scholar wants to explore the meaning of public and publicness for society as a community imagined by public media in various countries. What does it mean to be public in the public media? What attributes bind them to each other to contribute to the advancement of public service broadcasting institution in developing or developed country? It is important to discuss it from the perspective of Benedict Anderson Imagine Community.